Good evening and welcome. My name is David Prang. I'm the first Vice President of the Chamber of Commerce Brantford-Brant and your moderator for this evening. Our Chamber is pleased to be the community producer of this program in partnership with Rogers TV. This evening's debate features the candidates running for Ward 2. Our city is facing a number of challenges, and bold action and strategic measures are required to ensure long-term success and prosperity in our community. I congratulate all of the candidates on their commitment to our community as we look forward to an interesting evening. The candidates running in Ward 2 are Sandra Anderson, Warren Bouchard, Alex Felsky, Erica James, Peter Scheer, John Sless, and John Utley. Our panelists for this evening are Alan Lovett, past president of the Chamber of Commerce Brantford-Brant, Peter Shoma, a director on the board of the Chamber of Commerce, and our timer is Nancy Billiard of the Chamber. Alex Felsky is unable to join us this evening and has sent the following statement to be shared. Thank you to Rogers and the Chamber of Commerce for organizing this debate. Thank you to my fellow candidates for putting your names forward to serve. I was looking forward to the opportunity to debate the issues in our neighborhoods with you. Sadly, my health prevents me from being able to be with you tonight, but my doctors assure me that I will make a full recovery and be ready to serve if I am chosen to be one of your counselors for our ward. To those watching, thank you for tuning in to watch and considering your options thoughtfully. I hope you will recognize my commitment to our community. I've served on many boards and volunteered with the Homedale Neighborhood Association and started a universal student nutrition program at my children's school and worked with the Brant United Way. It's been my honor to serve these past 4 years as a Grand Erie School Board trustee. In that role, I've managed a $320 million budget. I've been responsive to community and to parent concerns. I've worked with at the provincial level to promote inclusive education and success for every student. We need a council that will address ongoing traffic concerns and infrastructure challenges like the wastewater crisis that is holding our city back. Every citizen deserves safe, affordable housing, and I will work towards that goal. I've advocated for our community's healthcare needs for years, including walk-in clinics where there were none, a publicly funded lactation consultant, which we now have, and a new hospital to meet the needs of growing and aging population. You can count on me to be prudent with spending your money, to be responsive to your needs, and to be inclusive in my decision-making, and to build strong relationships. I think some turnover on council is healthy. I want to be a part of that. My husband, Tim, and our 2 sons are proud to call Brantford our home. We've lived in Ward 2 for 11 years and care about building a vibrant city where no one is left behind. You deserve representation that will listen and encourage you and engage with you in your needs. Let's build a strong community together. I love our city and would be proud to serve on council. Please vote Alex Felsky as one of your Ward 2 councillors. So that's the statement from Alex Felsky. Thank you, and we will now begin the debate. Each candidate will have 1 minute to make their opening remarks. The order of speaking was determined by a random draw. The panelists will alternate posing questions. Each candidate will have an opportunity to respond to each question, and a 90-second time limit will be imposed. In the instance of one candidate making a specific personal and specific reference to another candidate, that candidate will be allowed a 30-second rebuttal. Each candidate will be allowed 1 minute for a closing statement, and the speaking order will be the reverse to the opening remarks. The timekeeper will indicate when the candidates have 15 seconds remaining to speak and when they have reached the maximum time limit allowed. In the case of a challenge, the decision of the moderator will be final. I would ask the candidates to adhere to the agreed upon format and exercise professional decorum throughout the debate. Thank you, and we will begin with the candidates' opening remarks. The first candidate to speak will be Peter Scheer.
Thanks, Dave. Lived in Brantford for over 60 years. I have 3 amazing kids. They all live in Victoria, BC. I was raised in Ward 2 down in Westdale, or Homedale, I guess some people call it. I'm the business development manager for Tormont Caterpillar. I was instrumental in developing the pump division for Caterpillar for Eastern Canada. I have a degree in management administration through the Canadian Institute of Management, and I also have a certification for a quality technician through Mohawk College. I've sat on the Parks and Rec Board for 3 terms, or 6 years, vice chair for 1 of those terms. I also sat on the Golf Management Board for 3 terms and chair for 2 of those terms. And I sat for 1 term on the Brant Sports Council. I am presently the president of the Brant Artillery Gunners Club and I've been the president there for 5 terms or 10 years. I was awarded the Queen's Diamond Jubilee Medal in 2012 in recognition.
Thank you, Peter.
Of
Next, we have John Utley.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good evening and welcome. For the past 8 years, it has been my privilege to serve as your councillor in Ward 2 as your voice of reason, professionally and objectively. The most enjoyable part of being your voice on council is listening to your concerns and working with staff to find a solution. With over 2,000 responses over the past 2 terms, the vast majority of these had a positive outcome. The next 4 years will see some of the most important decisions made by the new council with the addition of 2,600 acres. These decisions will require experience and commitment to maintain the quality of life that we currently enjoy. I intend to continue my responsive relationship with citizens and staff to provide the best service and results. I look forward to working with you to keep the positive momentum moving forward in our ward. I ask for your continued support on October the 22nd.
Thank you, John. Sandra.
Trouble reaching it. I'm Sandy Anderson. I am running for your city councillor, Ward 2. Thank you, Chamber of Commerce. Thank you, Rogers. I wore red for you. Thank you to all my nominators, my 26 signatures who nominated me for city council. I have lived in the Brantford area since 1994. I'm originally from Toronto, but the community embraced me. I have loved living out this way. I gave birth to my daughter in BGH. I raised her in Paris. I have lived a combined total of 5 years in Brantford. Vote Sandy for the city, Ward 2. Thank you.
Thank you, Sandra. Erica.
Thank you, Rogers and the Chamber of Commerce for putting on this event. Also, thank you to our fellow candidates for putting your name forward and engaging in the process. My name is Erica James, and I'm a 21-year resident of Brantford, most of it from Ward 2. I've been a co-owner of a local small business for the past 18 years. I've been on various boards and committees. Currently, I am primary chapter leader of our Peak Lake chapter, as well as a member of the Brantford-Brant and the Brantford Advocacy Transgender Alliance committees. I imagine a city that is progressive, that embraces our diversity and differences, a city that is inclusive and accepting and respectful of everyone, where everyone matters and every voice counts. Also, I'd like to just do a big shout out to my friend Alex Felsky, who also did a statement there, can't be here. Wish you all the best, Alex, and hope you're back soon. Thanks.
Thank you, Erica. John Sluss.
Good evening, Mr. Moderator, panel, ladies and gentlemen, both here and at home, and fellow candidates. My name is John Sluss, and I am the Ward 2 councillor. My wife, Irene, and myself raised our 8 children in Ward 2, where we've lived for the past 33 years. We currently have 11 grandchildren, which we enjoy immensely, and we're quite confident that there are more to come. I look forward to tonight's debate to discuss the great things and not so great things that are happening in our community. I'm proud of our city, and I'm proud of everything that it has to offer. I look forward to working with you to make sure that we can make it even better and have it to be a place to live, work, and play and raise a family. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Warren Bouchard.
I'm Warren Bouchard. I'd like to thank everyone for organizing this evening, all the candidates for running. It's a lot of work. I appreciate that. Personally, I know now how hard it is. The reason I have always been involved in civic government, our next door neighbor, Bill Sir, was elected as an alderman many years ago, and I've been sort of a junkie ever since. Lloyd Hogarth, the former mayor, was also a neighbor. Our city has many, many challenges. I believe in term limits, and I think new and fresh voices are vital in order to see a city move forward. I was particularly pleased to hear that Kevin Davis was going to take a run at mayor, and he was primarily the reason why I decided to put my hat in the ring, and I look forward to working with you.
Thank you, Warren. Thank you. And now we will begin with the questions from Alan Lovett. And as a reminder, the first candidate to respond will be John Utley.
Thank you, Dave. Thank you, everybody, for being here. This is a particularly interesting one for me since I'm a Ward 2 resident. So I'd like to start off talking about one of our city's greatest natural resources, the Grand River, which borders Ward 2. A couple of large-scale infill developments are scheduled on the horizon with Grand River Ave and Hardy Road developments, which will have a significant impact on the watershed area. How do you feel the waterfront master plan can be utilized or modified to ensure the best use and development of the surrounding areas to ensure the river and our city's future?
Thank you for the question, Alan. I think there always needs to be a fine balance between development and the use of waterfront lands. I think the city has a good balance of both. I know in Ward 2 along Grand River Ave, we're trying to acquire some properties that will keep that waterfront land in public hands and for the enjoyment of the citizens that use it. For any businesses, commercial or industrial, I'd like to see a pretty large buffer between the river and any type of business. And the type of business really indicates that a warehouse, it may not be as effective on or negative on the environment than say a foundry or a company that pollutes the air. So I again, I think the city has taken some great steps with the waterfront master plan to acquire lands for public use, and I see vision, a band shell, parks, barbecue areas along the Grand for public enjoyment, and access for fishing, and that's me. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Sandra.
Thank you very much. Yes, the Grand River is a wonderful natural resource. It's a wonderful recreation spot. It is a valuable part of our community. I believe the waterfront master plan needs to be communicated and researched and made sure that everyone is aware of how it will affect the areas. And I will do my best to be educated in all of that and make sure everyone knows what's needed. Thank you.
Thank you. Erica.
The Grand River is a vital part of our city, and it's good for our water resources that come from this, and we have to be careful. I think we should only be putting residential properties or buildings next to the river, keep the industry away from the river, and I also believe that we should develop more parklands along the river as well, like for instance, Church Street and Waterloo on Grand River there, the large piece of land there. I believe most of that is under city control now, where that could become an amazing waterfront park where the whole community could come and enjoy it. Thank you.
Thank you, Erica. John Sless.
Thank you, David. We're so fortunate to have a city where we have a heritage river running through it. I think it's a natural asset that is the envy of many cities. The waterfront master plan was actually put together, it's quite a few years old now, but it was put together for the express purpose of protecting and ensuring that development that took place along the river's edge or close to the river's edge in the watershed was done in an orderly, properly fashion, and it was well controlled. And I think to that end, it's been successful. We're talking about parks along the river, and absolutely, the unfortunate part with our riverfront is we have a dike system, which we very much need, but unfortunately, it blocks your view. You can't sit on a lawn chair pretty well anywhere in the city and look at the water. And we've been working as ward mates to assemble land. We've had some success. We got about 4 acres put into city's ownership this year. We're in negotiation and discussions with putting a lot more in. The details are still being worked on. But the plan is to take a big piece of land that we've already purchased up by the bridge and fill it up to the level of the dike so that you actually have a park where you can sit in the park and see the river. And at the same time, we're still protected from the river's ravage. So to me, that makes a lot of sense. It's a place where you can take your kids, you can take your family, you can have a barbecue, you can spend your Sunday afternoons.
Thank you, John. Warren Bouchard.
The Grand River is a natural asset that we're so lucky to have. I think that the less development we have along there, other than for recreational purposes, the better. I'm not entirely familiar with the master plan, but I do know that a great deal of care has been taken to ensure that the river is there for all of us. My biggest concern with the river, and I bike along there and walk along there, is the trees, the invasive trees that have grown up above the level of the dike, making it virtually impossible to see. And I have consulted with the arborists who work for the city. Most of those are invasive species and should be culled out. And the GRCA has told me that they compromise the safety of the dike. So that's one of my biggest concerns. And of course, everybody must realize that the river is our source of water. We have virtually no chance of ever bringing water in from Lake Erie. So we must be very, very careful how we manage that asset and how our partners to the north manage the asset as well. We do have a terrific water treatment plant that we put a lot of money into, and I think we're moving along in the right direction.
Thank you, Warren. Peter Shear.
Yeah, I grew up around the river. That was my playground for most of my life. I'd like to see us maintain that. I think I'd like to see a little bit of development along the Grand River. It's one of the jewels of the city. Other municipalities rely on the Grand River, not just Brantford. There's a lot of municipalities that rely on that. I travel a lot, and I've been to a lot of cities that have rivers like ours, and they do showcase them, and they still do maintain the environmental part of it also. I just think there has to be a proper balance. I haven't looked at the master plan as of yet, but I definitely think that we should have a balance. But I think we should also try and showcase it if possible, safely.
Thank you, Peter. On to our next question. Peter Shoma.
Good evening, everyone. Ward 2 is home to a few large-scale projects that will increase traffic, particularly in the Homedale area. Brant Ave is already a choke point for car traffic. What potential solutions do you see that will move people efficiently that will not adversely affect the business community on Brant Ave?
First answer will be Sandra.
Yes, for sure. Brant Ave gets very congested, especially between the hours of 3 o'clock and 5 every day. We've got BCI right there. People going to and from work, to and from home. I see an opportunity for education and communication here to investigate all ways to move people easily and quickly through the city. The access study that has been done, that was discussed extensively in the Ward 1 debate, will have an effect also on Ward 2. And I will investigate, if elected, the best way to move people through the city. Thank you.
Thank you. Erica James.
Thank you. As for the transportation issues on Brant Ave, they are kind of interlinked with the whole entire city, with the whole BSAR debate for the last 20 so years. I would support the Oak Park extension, as well as partnering with the county to expand County Road 18 into 4 lanes, so we can divert the majority of the traffic that goes down Brant Ave, off of Brant Ave, and out 2 different ways, get onto the highway, get to work where they work and so on, rather than driving down Brant Ave, which is affecting our roads and deteriorating them. And also, I think that as we grow as a city and a county, we need to work on more of a regional master transportation plan. Right now, we're looking at a citywide one, but when our population goes to 140,000 people by 2040, the county's going to grow as well. We need a regional system, regional plan, and how to move our people around. Thank you.
Thank you, Erica. John Sless.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. If it's a mess now, wait till next summer. It's being resurfaced. So we're going to have 2 months of chaos on Brant Ave. We all know that. We know it's coming. We know the hurricanes come, and you're never quite ready. So we will be doing our best to keep things under control. To me, there's 2 factors, I think, that create the mess on Brant Ave. One is the parking. And there's not a lot you can do when the city has already licensed people and gave them zoning to permit businesses to go there, and the parking has to take place. It's very erratic and it's very sporadic the way you can park. There's so many different time zones on that street that it's very confusing for the consumer. But unfortunately, we have to live with that. We've made our bed and we'll have to lie in it. Another contributing factor is the Southwest, and that's a huge contributing factor because they're coming over the Lorne Bridge and they want to get to the 403, and their quickest way there is down Brant Avenue. I would agree that we need the Oak Park extension, and we need to hook Veterans Memorial Parkway via a bridge across the Grand River. That is in our Transportation Master Plan in 2025. It's about a $37 million project. When you get to those kind of zeros, you need upper-level governments to assist, and I think that's the point we're at now, searching out pots of money.
Thank you, John Sless. Warren Bichard.
I was at a Ward 5 meeting recently that was called by Mr. Van Tilburg and Mr. Newman, and I spoke there, and they seemed to be very surprised that Brant Ave is entirely within Ward 2. I no longer think in terms of BSAR. I think in terms of the Brantford Connector Road system, of which Brant Ave would be a major part. For me, I would like to see certain changes made to the left turns off of Brant Ave, particularly West Street. And I see the use of roundabouts, particularly at the Jubilee Park area, as a possible solution to moving traffic along Brant Ave in a much better way. Businesses depend on Brant Ave, and I agree with John Sless that there's just no way that we can ever do away with the parking. But I do feel that a roundabout there at Jubilee Park and over the Lorne Bridge would go a long way to alleviating some of the congestion there during the prime hours between 3 and 7, say.
Thank you, Warren. Peter Scheer.
Yeah, I think the issue is going to be Brant Ave. I just don't know how we're going to make that more accessible or get people in and out quicker, or not quicker, but more efficiently. I think the BSAR is going to be a big part of that, and like John Sless says, maybe go out the Oak Parkway so that we don't have the congestion that we do on Brant Ave. I'd like to be part of that plan to see how we could help Brant Ave, but I mean, you have high schools. It's just going to be really difficult. We need to do something more efficiently than the way it is now. And like John says, next year it's going to be even worse. So,
thank you, Peter. John Utley.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. There's no easy or cheap solution or timely solution to offload the traffic from Brant Ave at this point. It's going to get a lot worse before it gets better. So one of the plans is to extend Oak Park Road across the Grand River into West Brant. West Brant's going through enormous growth right now and will continue to grow for many years to come. So, and one of the other solutions is diverting some of that traffic across the glebe lands. And that's not that may be the longest the longest negotiation that takes place if it ever does. But certainly, as my ward mate has said, we need levels of government to help with this because it's an enormous cost to build a bridge. But I say for the businesses on Brant Ave, be careful what you wish for sometimes because I would hope they'll still get the level of the same level or of traffic that they're getting right now that makes their businesses prosper. So I there's probably some temporary solutions that can be put in place that staff are exploring, but the bigger items, that bridge across the Grand River, that's going to be a lot of planning, a lot of negotiation. There is land being acquired in West Brant, so that we'll have, once that bridge is built, we can extend the highway.
Thank you, John Utley. Our next question will return to Alan Lovett.
Thanks, Dave. The upcoming legalization of cannabis brings with it a lot of economic development opportunities. One of those opportunities is the ability to have brick and mortar retail stores within municipalities. As of now, the province is giving municipalities the option of whether to opt in or opt out of such retail outlets. Simple question, would you, if elected, vote to opt in or opt out, and why?
Thank you, Alan. We'll begin with Erica James.
Oh, thank you, Alan. I would opt in simply because if you decide to opt out, you're going to encourage the black market. You're going to encourage basically the illegal sale of marijuana. And it's not actual the medicinal marijuana. That's been legal for a while. With the prescription or license, you can get that, not a problem. It's the recreational marijuana via smoking that is going to be legalized on October the 17th. So if we opt in, we are at least able to control as to where these locations go, make sure that there's the proper security, make sure it stays out of our children's hands, and hopefully in the near future they'll also legalize the oils and the edibles as that doesn't create quite the smell. So for myself, I would never smoke it. I don't particularly like the smell, but I think there is it's going to happen, just like drinking and so on. It happens, and you might as well opt in and let free enterprise bring more revenue to the city. Thank you.
Thank you, Erica. John Sless.
Thank you, David. The province is offering $40 million to municipalities to kickstart the program. It's over 2 years, but it's spread amongst 444 municipalities in Ontario. So you're probably going to get a cup of coffee and a donut. So you're not going to get anything out of the province as far as advancing. There's never been an issue that I've been involved in where there's so little known about so much. It's to me been rushed so quickly. I think on the other end they're seeing a lot of dollars. In the city, you're going to see, in my opinion, you're still going to see cannabis being used in the city because they can buy it online. So you obviously should opt in because you're not preventing it from coming in. It's going to come in online. So it's coming, and there's nothing that as a city we can do. We don't have equipment for the police. We don't know how to train the police. There's not a test that is acceptable. The Ottawa police have opted out of the saliva test that the government is proposing. They say it's not valid. So there's so many unknowns in this that I think the only thing realistically that you can do is opt in because you're going to get it anyway and see what you can come out with. But based on the pot of money and based on the amount of people participating in it, you're not going to get much.
Thank you, John. Warren Bouchard.
Well, I'd like to go back to Prohibition days when I began speaking about this. Once alcohol was legalized, they put the black market bootleggers out of business quickly. And I agree with Erica that that would happen in this case too. There's a very good article in today's Star that points out that you will not be able to just walk down the street smoking a joint just because marijuana is recreational marijuana is legal. It would be looked at by the police the same as drinking from an open flask of whiskey. It's going to put a big load financially on the city because bylaw complaints are not going to be handled by the police. They would have to be handled by bylaw officers employed by the city. But I do think that we should opt in because there is a revenue stream. Perhaps it could be put to referendum as to how we manage it. I know that's happening in the state of Michigan this year, referendum on recreational use of marijuana and how it should be brought on stream. But I'm in favor of it, and I do believe that it will be properly managed by thoughtful people.
Thank you, Warren. Peter Scheer.
I would have to opt in. I mean, marijuana's been around for a long time. They just didn't invent this stuff. It's been around for a long time. I have some concerns about the negative impacts for the municipality, for everywhere. I mean, I'm happy for that for the people that need it for medicinal purposes. I have a lot of friends that use it for pain and cancer medications, and I think hopefully we can do something good with it. Hopefully educate properly. The Mothers Against Drunk Drivers, they must be pulling their hair out. I mean, they've done such a great job in promoting don't drinking and driving, and now we're putting another drug in their laps and say, okay, deal with this one now, and so now we get to have our kids and everybody test their skills behind the wheel with another mind-altering drug. So there is some reservations as far as the safety, and I just believe if we lose one life, it's one too many. Thanks.
Thank you, Peter. John Utley.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Dangling millions of dollars to municipalities sounds really good, almost too good to be true. And my concern is, what are the hidden costs? We haven't really debated that to any great degree yet. There will be policing costs, bylaw officer costs. There'll be counseling for people that get addicted. Maybe I'm really concerned about workers going into work under the influence. It could be anything, but what if those people they may not smoke a joint, but they might have a nice green brownie in the morning for breakfast, and go into work feeling very happy and positive. But what are the hazards of somebody switching on a machine and getting caught up with it, or hurt, or driving a vehicle? That concerns me greatly. I'm leaning towards opt in reluctantly, because if we don't have outlets in the city, those same people that want to use that product, they can go to other surrounding communities and buy it, or buy it online, as somebody has said. So I, reluctantly in.
Thank you, John. Sandra Anderson.
Yes, I would vote to opt in. I don't indulge myself, but I know that the medicinal purposes, I actually have friends and neighbors who were injured very greatly and would prefer to do that than take pills. But I do feel that we need more information about how these stores are going to be run and how it's going to be sold. I would like to see it sold like liquor rather than cigarettes. And I do feel that more education is needed about that, but it's coming anyway, so we might as well opt in. We might as well investigate all the issues that it will have in our community and lend the support to those issues. Thank you.
Thank you, Sandra. And we'll return to questions with Peter Shoma.
The city is spending $150,000 to get a cost estimate to upgrade the Civic Center to OHL standards. Similar renovations around the province have run between $17 and $20 million. The question: would you support the upgrading of the Civic Center, and what impact would that have on the capital and operating budgets of the city?
Thank you, Peter. And our first question is John Sless.
Thank you. And thanks for the question. I sit on the committee that is negotiating with the major sports team that is potentially coming to the city. At this point, nothing's been approved. There's been discussion about potentially doing some investigation. It's been discussed by the committee that if the team was that interested in coming in and they want to know what the numbers would be, that they would front that $150,000 if they felt it was in their best interest. I think it would be a good thing for the city if we had a major junior team, but by the same token, we can't afford those numbers. We've been ensured that there's funding available through the ownership of the team. We don't know if that's true. That they haven't put anything down in writing, so we're still, I guess, exploring and seeing where this whole thing could go. But in the interim, would I support spending that type of money on an existing old facility that would be cobbled together? There's everything wrong with the Civic Center. It's not just a matter of putting more seats in there. The ice is too short. So you've got to move the whole ice plant and make that, I think it's 12 feet longer, the arena. So you're talking major money, and we don't have the money to do that. And I wouldn't support borrowing the money, and I wouldn't support using any taxpayer money to do that, but I would be more than happy to let a developer come in and pay the bill. I'd be happy to.
Thank you, John. Warren Bichard.
I've coached on 2 OHL teams, including the Alexanders, who were here previously. The Civic Center currently is big enough to handle the average seasonal attendance of 9 current OHL franchises. I would not support spending a nickel on this initiative. If you've got the kind of money to buy or move an OHL franchise, $150,000 is pocket change, and I believe, as John does, that that should be funded by the proponent. I don't really see that as a good spot. I think there are better places to build a new arena. I see that the Civic Center as becoming possibly part of an expanded casino scene in Brantford now that the real casino people have taken over and the OLG has sort of been moved out. So my answer is no, not a dime. It didn't work the first time. We averaged 1,500 people. There are only really 2 franchises, Kitchener and London. And as I say, I've coached in 2 OHL communities, and I just wouldn't commit a nickel to it.
Thank you, Warren. Peter Scheer.
I guess I'd have to see what they're bringing to the table. Like, so they're going to play hockey. What do we do with it after that? And we've had that there for 50 years. So what are we going to do with it after they're done with it? So is it just going to sit idle, or are we going to rent it out, or what's our revenue stream going to look like over a year once we invest that? What are they investing into the project also? And are we going to have a contract? Are they going to stay here for 5, 10 years, 1 year? I'd like to see information like that. Just more like a cost and checks and balances. What kind of revenue are we going to generate from this type of a project?
Thank you, Peter. John Utley.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. If other business come to town, they usually go to a bank or go, have their own money, and they invest in the site, they invest in the building, and all the equipment needs to go in it. For some reason, hockey arenas like to get municipalities involved in that business. If I look at the way a local hockey team was supported, it wasn't well supported at all anytime I went into any of their games. And if we can't get people to attend a smaller team like that, how the heck are we going to get 4,000 or 5,000 people to attend games on a regular basis for that business to become financially viable? We have there's a few councillors that are looking at the feasibility of this just to spend the $150,000. So we want to find out some more information first before we absolutely commit to that money. Some of these teams are notorious for moving around from municipality to municipality to get the best deal they possibly can. And, you're in business for 5 years and then you're out of business for 5 years. And then, as I said, it's, you have to pick up all the pieces afterwards. So my answer is no, I don't support it.
Thank you, John. Sandra.
The question was, how would it affect capital and operating budgets, correct? Astronomical effect, it sounds like. I would not support it either. I tend to be more artsy than sporty, and I just can't support any sports-oriented thing before we get our mid-sized performance facility, because arts and culture needs a proper home there. Thank you.
Thank you, Sandra Anderson. Erica.
Thank you for the question. I would not support it. For that matter, I would not even support the $150,000 study that we're going to contribute to in order to find out if we want to do it. The simple fact of the matter is, like John Utley said, if our junior B and now our junior A team can't even draw sellouts, how do we possibly think that we can have our OHL team or whatever team we're becoming, draw enough fans to make it sustainable? It's just unrealistic. So I would not support it at all. And I believe that at this time we probably have an overabundance of ice rink and ice time. So to develop a new facility at our expense would not be wise. Now, like John Sless said, if they want to come in and finance the whole entire project, and then we can build an arena for this team, by all means, bring the money and we'll build it, and then you guys can stay as long as you like, and then we'll have a great facility when you leave. Thank you.
Thank you, Erica James. We return to Alan Lovett for the next question.
Thank you, Dave. Retaining and attracting business is critical to the increase of the city's assessment base and to provide jobs to our residents and to keep us from becoming a commuter city. While we have some positive momentum with our economic development, the majority of our chamber members surveyed indicated that they feel only somewhat or not supported by the municipality. What changes do you propose we could make to create a more business-friendly environment to attract and retain those businesses?
Thank you, Alan. We'll begin with Warren Bichard.
Well, at one time I thought that reducing the 1.5% tax would be a quick solution, but I discussed that with Mr. Telfer, and that doesn't seem to be feasible at this time. It would have to be phased in over a period of time. I'm quite interested in the way they do things in Burlington, where the chamber is a partner with the Economic Development Department of the city, and I would like to see possibly that we look into that, because small business people know best what's for them, and I would like to see us possibly move in that direction, where small business becomes a partner with the city in the economic development plan. So there's no doubt in my mind that as we move ahead, small business is going to be the key to the success of keeping our young people here, providing livable wages, and anything that we can do to help them, then I'm all for it. But I think they should be a partner with the economic development people equally, and have a say in everything that we do.
Thank you, Warren. Peter Scheer.
Yeah, I think that the city should work closely with local businesses, and because, I mean, if they work together with the municipalities, if they work to achieve individual goals, but also each other's short and long-term goals. Example, like land purchase terms, tax incentives, expand manpower incentives, and also help educate some people for the businesses. But I think that the municipalities need to work with the businesses to help them flourish and work as partners.
Thank you, Peter. John Utley.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. there are a number of things taking place right now that, and have done for many years, to attract businesses to our community. There's no one thing that really attracts businesses, but one of the key things that both individuals, private people, and businesses like is the quality of life in Brantford. The river that we have running through our city, the environment their employees would live in is an important factor. Another one is our training facilities. There's a lot of work to do yet in enhancing our training facilities to provide skills training for people in the trades. Having the workforce with the skills they need and the right work ethic is important to businesses. There's a lot of development, providing development services and support from our economic development department to, if it's a new company, is to help guide them through the process of acquiring land and all the other things they need to run their businesses. Low taxes, no, it's not where you want it to be yet, but it's coming. It's better than some others. And thank you.
Thank you, John. Sandra Anderson.
First of all, I'd like to say that it's very unfortunate that businesses don't feel supported by the municipality, and things need to happen to change that. More dialogue is needed. Perhaps city councilors can attend chamber meetings or the other way around and have proper monthly reports on what's happening, or even more than monthly, bi-weekly. And just keep communication open and find out why they don't feel supported and in what areas, and work to fix that. Thank you.
Thank you, Sandra. Erica James.
69%. That's not a very good number. It's very concerning. So the first step that I would do would be to go and listen and engage with the business community and come up with a consensus, as they know best, on what can be done to better support our business community. I'd even propose writing resolutions and bringing back to council from the actual business community. And then there are the far too high business commercial taxes. These are especially hard on your small mom and pop businesses. Goes back to the need of developing more industry and more businesses in town. So when we are able to attract more businesses and build up our industries, we are able to increase our tax base and have more tax revenue. Therefore, we can then potentially lower taxes more to the commercial sector, because as a commercial business owner myself, taxes are crazy. And also it goes to our skilled workers. So we don't have a workforce here. How can we possibly attract new businesses if we don't have a workforce to fill those positions and so on? So I would support the city in encouraging more training opportunities and that kind of thing. Thank you.
Thank you, Erica. John Sluss.
Thank you, David. I've met with staff, and I have been meeting with staff to streamline the process of getting it in the door and out the door in a timely manner that makes sense to business. They don't want to get bogged down in red tape. That they would like a clear shot at what they're trying to do and to take something from conception to fruition in a streamlined process. That is underway. I think as far as the levels of education, I think we have to align the courses that are being taught in our colleges within the city with the need that industry has within the city. We've got some new industries. Mitsui is a prime example from Japan. They've opened up. They're struggling to get skilled workers that they're looking for. So those kinds of things are bothersome. Back in 2008, thanks to the Chamber of Commerce, you came to council and were requesting that we drop that rate to 1.5 on industrial. We're down to 2.29, but what we're using is the growth and assessment in those two, in commercial and in industrial sectors. We're using 80% of that new assessment to buy down those numbers. So are we getting there? Yes. Is it fast enough? No. But are we working on it? Absolutely. So I think at the end of the day, we're doing the right thing. We're heading in the right direction. I think it would be nice to have a program where we're going out and we're meeting with these folks in their facilities where we can get hands-on views of things that they're doing and possibly offer solutions. So, yes, do we want to make it better? Absolutely.
Thank you, John. And we return to Peter Shoma for the next question.
Brantford's overall crime rate is approximately 60% higher than the provincial average. This statistic could deter growth and future investment in our city. How can the municipality work with police services and other organizations to reduce this number? Brantford's overall crime rate is approximately 60% higher than the provincial average. This statistic could deter growth and future investment in our community. How can the municipality work with police services and other organizations to reduce this number?
Thank you, Peter. And we'll begin with Peter Scheer.
Well, I think we're going to have to increase the number of officers, obviously, and put in some other types of plans. We're just working with the police services. I mean, if we have that much crime, obviously we're doing something wrong. We need more resources. So I think we need to take a look at what our resources are and maybe improve on the resources, whether it's increase how many officers we have or any new technology that might come around.
Thank you, Peter. John Utley.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm not sure the 60% is right across the board. I think that may be in certain crime levels, so I just wanted to clarify that. I had the privilege of being on the Police Services Board for 6 months, and it was quite an eye-opener, and what the public doesn't hear. And our new police chief is a very creative individual and has some great ideas about how policing can be streamlined and how some of the work that their officers do can be offloaded to bylaw officers at a much lower cost. So I think that is something that is being explored right now, especially as we become the opioid crisis, what I'm sure that cannabis may be an issue as well. So there's a lot of issues that can be managed differently. People with mental health problems, there needs to be some different ways of managing some of those incidences that go on in our community. Certainly, I would like to see more presence downtown, where crime seems to be quite visible down there. And but I think we're moving in the right direction with some ideas through the Police Services Board.
Thank you, John. Sandra Anderson.
60% is an unfortunate number indeed. I feel that involvement in the community, and a lot of people get involved in crime because they're bored. Perhaps there needs to be more to do in Brantford, more involvement in the community, more education in the schools by the police. There are programs in place like that that are wonderful and very beneficial to communities. And I really feel that Brantford can work with their police force and be educated on what they are doing to prevent crime and to involve people in the community. And yes, if voted, I am for the community. Thank you.
Thank you, Sandra. Erica James.
I would say that the community patrol, which is an initiative by the police, that could be expanded. To put patrols downtown, the more visible the police are, the less likely things are going to happen. Also, more of your community neighborhood associations, more community engagement, where you're able to more people know your neighbors, the more likely you are to watch out for one another. And then when you're watching out for one another, then less crime occurs, so there's more eyes around. Also, when we have our drug issues here in town, our other addictions, perhaps we could allocate some of that money from one of our 5 meth centers to maybe perhaps open a detox center here in town. So people who are having these addiction problems have somewhere to go where they can get help, that they can then, be a better upstanding citizen and therefore not need the money and so on. So they go do some kind of crime to get what they need in order to facilitate their addiction. So I think that a detox center would be an ideal thing to do in here. People who have addiction issues usually don't have the means to go outside the city to a detox center. We need to have one in town here so that we're able to provide these services for these individuals. Thank you.
Thank you, Erica. John Sless.
Thank you, David. What always concerns me when I hear these statistics, the asterisk beside it will say it's the region. It's not the city of Brantford. It's part of the region. You also have the county, and you also have Six Nations. So when you put the three groups together, that's what our crime rate comes out at. But somehow Brantford is the crime capital. So it's spread out amongst three communities. So it's not just the statistics from Brantford. It is our region. I think we do a very, very good job at reporting crime in this city, and I think that drives our number high, because I think a lot of communities don't necessarily go to the same extent that we do to track these things and to actually come up with believable data, so that you can make the numbers. I guess I think the saying is, if you torture them long enough, they'll tell you what you want to hear. And I think some of these numbers from other communities get tortured pretty good, because they're not as free of crime as what the numbers might tend to believe you. I think more feet on the street, I think it's been said, in the core area, I think is very important. I don't mind saying it. I don't feel safe downtown after dark, and I think there's a lot of people that don't. And should we? Yes, but we need feet on the street to ensure that. And I think that is an important step that we must be starting to take. I think at the end of the day, the root cause for a lot of the crime is drugs. We have just developed a drug strategy.
Thank you, John. Warren Bichard.
I was employed by the Ministry of Correctional Services for 28 years. I think I know a little bit about crime. I was the assistant superintendent of the only psychiatric prison in Ontario. Brantford's current crime scene will not be solved by more police officers. There's very clear criminological research on that point. However, crime is almost directly correlated to poverty. And I see some of the other initiatives that are moving forward with employment, small business. Most of the criminals who are in town are not our people. They move from Toronto out to Hamilton, out to Brantford, as the housing becomes more affordable to them. How we move them out of the core area is by building condos and apartments that they can't afford. And then they move out of those areas and move to different areas. A big problem that we have is that so much of our police time is taken up with them providing security at the hospital. And that has to be taken over by the BGH, as is done in Western Canada in almost every major city, and get our officers back out.
Thank you, Warren. And for our next question, we return to Alan.
Thank you, David. Not unlike many municipalities, our municipality faces a large infrastructure deficit, which is only getting worse based on the events over the last couple of years. What would you do to prioritize the infrastructure, and what programs and services would you be in favor of cutting, reducing, eliminating, and what other efficiencies do you feel we can find in order to direct more of the resources towards that critical infrastructure our city needs?
Thank you, Alan. The infrastructure deficit is widespread across the whole province, not just Brantford. And one of the things AMO, which is the Association of Municipal Organizations, is proposing a 1% increase in HST, and that 1% will be divided up proportionately to communities to try and catch up a little bit with that infrastructure deficit. We're already experiencing some issues in the city with the not water treatment plants, but the pumping stations, which is a critical juncture at this point in the city's life. But I think the city has a 100-year capital plan that it never had 5 years ago. So we've got a much better picture of how to project costs and life of roads and sewers and so on across the community. So I think we're prioritizing those repairs and replacements in the short term, and hopefully we can get some help from the province. I can't see us going to the city for a 1.5% increase in our capital planning.
Thank you, John. Sandra Anderson.
I agree with John that we need to prioritize, and I would familiarize myself with the issues, with the plan, and investigate the best way to deal with this. Thank you.
Thank you, Sandra. Erica James.
Thank you. Infrastructure is a vital part of our community and needs immediate attention, like you mentioned. Our roads, bridges, sidewalks, water, sewage have been neglected far too long. And that's just our physical infrastructure. Then you have our social infrastructure. We need to look after our vulnerable citizens as well, like affordable housing. The current wait for a one-bedroom affordable housing is 5 to 9 years. Single bachelor, 3 to 4 years, and that's just way too long. Also, autism, mental health, ADH services. That we need to partner up a little bit with the province, the private sector, but we need to be able to offer those to help families in that regard. It also goes back to our basic needs and wants. We spend far too much money on wants, and let's build this or let's build that, rather than looking after our basic needs, which is infrastructure is a key part of our city. Without infrastructure, you don't have a city. And then that all goes back again to attracting more industry and businesses to our city. When you do that, our tax base, tax revenue goes up, and we have more money to spend on these things. Thank you.
Thank you, Erica. John Sless.
Thank you, David, and thanks for the question. We review our 10-year capital plan annually, and the priorities do change within that 10-year capital plan based on what's going on in the community. As I think most people are aware, we have a 1.5% capital levy that's placed on everybody's tax bill. We hear a lot about freezing taxes and keeping them at zero. Well, we did that in the 90s. I was here. I know we did it, and I know how we did it, and I know what it caused. It caused this 1.5 levy, because if you don't continually work at your deficit, you're never going to eliminate it. And when you freeze taxes, you freeze a lot of things that are causing all of these infrastructure problems. So I think we are also, assessment poor in the realm of commercial and industrial assessment. We don't have our fair share as other cities do. We're heavily reliant on residential, which means you and I pay more on our home taxes because we don't have enough companies and enough businesses to share that pain. So I think bringing on the expansion lands as fast as we can, and the city is working hammer and tong on this, and there are layers and layers and layers of approval to get from the province to bring that on. But once we do that and we have these lands in place, you're going to have much more assessment coming in, and it will ease the pain, and we can accelerate the infrastructure deficit.
Thank you, John. Warren Bichard.
I was at a council meeting fairly recently where Mr. Sless asked one of our senior city staff just how much we were in arrears in infrastructure, and the answer was somewhere between $225 million and $250 million. So we're not going to do it all at once. I believe that if casino money had been wisely used over the last 4 terms of council, that total would have been dramatically reduced. I think if we work with the entertainment industry and expand the impact of the casino, that we could reduce that 225 to 250 million total a lot faster. As John Utley said, we're not the only community that's in this situation. It's right across the province. A recent Ipsos poll in Toronto, infrastructure was one of the top three concerns of the citizens. Taxes being number one, of course, housing and crime and infrastructure. So we really need to get after it. It's not going to be done all at once, but I do believe that bringing the casino industry, the entertainment industry closer to Brantford instead of pushing it away as we have, and using that money wisely could.
Thank you, Warren. Peter Shear.
I do this type of infrastructure work all over the province and doing sewers and water treatment plants and waste treatment plants. I have to tell you, this Brantford is one of the best that tries to keep up with the growing sewers. Some of them, like Mississauga, I mean, they never fixed anything for all those years. The mayor looked like a hero because she didn't raise taxes, but now the mayor there has got a couple of $1 billion that he has to do. It's all about planning, and you have to plan and do pick the project. You have a master plan. You know the growth of the city. You have to pick and choose which ones you're going to do, and you're going to do them over a period of time. You can't do it all at once. We don't have the money for it. So I just think it's just have to plan about it. But as far as cutting services, I'm not in for cutting any services. I mean, the services are there for a reason, or they wouldn't be there. It just seems like every time that we need money, we get a questionnaire, which services do you want to cut? Well, I'm not interested in cutting services like golf courses or any type of leisure activity to supplement something that we should have been doing all along. Thanks.
Thank you, Peter. For our next question, we return to Peter Shoma.
The city's operating and capital budgets combined for more than $200 million. A private sector company with a similar budget would require its decision makers to have the skills and expertise necessary to make sound financial decisions. What past professional experience do you have that will best enable you to make sound decisions based on the business principles that will benefit your constituents and the communities at large?
Thank you, Peter. We begin with Sandra Anderson.
I'm not a money person, but my experience is in journalism, in writing, in editorial. I have had to balance budgets. I've had to work by budgets. I've had to work with other staff, hire staff. And I would just look at all the education and all the information available and figure out the best way to handle this and serve the constituents. Thank you.
Thank you, Sandra. Erica James.
Well, I'll be honest. I don't have any fancy university degrees or been a high-level executive. But what I do have is common sense and a fair amount of street smarts. I've been a small business owner for the past 18 years and a great deal of experience in that regard. Some of the most successful, wealthiest individuals in North America don't have degrees. They built what they have on their life experiences and their street smarts. I can simply say that I am one of the most unique. I have one of the most unique lived experiences perspectives than any other candidate running this year. And that is what the City Council needs the most. New fresh faces, new voices with unique perspectives. I'm also very easy to talk to, work with, and very level-headed. I know I have a great working relationship with our hardworking, dedicated staff and be able to get things done for the residents of Ward 2 as well as the city as a whole. Thank you.
Thank you, Erica. John Sless.
Thank you, David. I probably had the best teacher that one could have, and that was former councillor and mayor Max Sherman. God bless him. The first time I walked in here in 1991, Max took me aside and he says, "John, you seem very interested. You're probably going to stay here a long time, and I'll give you a piece of advice. You're spending other people's money when you do business here, And if you spend their money the way you would spend it if you were in your own home, you'll never go wrong. And I've heeded that advice, and I think it was excellent advice, and to me it was priceless. I guess if you're looking for experience, I can tell you I've been through 23 city budgets. Do I know how they work? I've got a pretty good idea. I've chaired the finance committee. In fact, I was part of the inaugural finance committee. So I've been through, I understand it. The city does things that is in the business of everything that business doesn't want to be in the business of. Nothing we do makes any money. Okay, we do what everybody else won't do, and that's our job, because you lose money at most things that the city does. So you can run the city in a business-like manner, but you can't run the city like a business. And again, that was Max Sherman's very, very wise words, and I've heeded them, and it's been very successful for me.
Thank you, John. Warren Bichard.
Well, I don't have experience in running a $250 million budget, which is what Mr. Talford told me just last week is our gross operating budget. But I do have the skill of working collegially with city staff and with other people on council to find solutions. I believe that we need to reduce the size of our city staff. I think we've grown too large. That is one thing that I would definitely look at, is reducing the size of management and applying that savings to infrastructure projects. But it is a difficult situation, and the solution is to work collegially, work as a group, and use the expertise of the remaining city staff to try and whittle that budget down.
Thank you, Warren. Peter Scheer.
I've been part of designing and implementing sound business models for very large companies like Tormont, Canada. I've also been part of starting up the pump division for Hertz Canada, Hertz North America, actually. I've also, when I took over as president for the Artillery Gunners Club, Brant Artillery Gunners Club, we were $20,000 in the hole. Today we have over $230,000 in the bank. We've upgraded our facility by $500,000 over the last 10 years, and we still contribute money to all the worthwhile causes in the community. And so I have some background in that. I believe that the secret to success is surrounding yourself with great people. And I think we have a lot of great people in this community, outside the community, even with the Six Nations in the county. And I think we just need to do better planning. And I think I can bring that tool to the table. Thank you.
Thank you, Peter. John Utley.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have over 40 years' experience in the automotive and adult education sectors, and also operated my own business for a few years here and there. And running a city is unlike any other experience I've had in my life. It is very, very different. However, with my past experience, I've been able to work with senior staff and introduce process improvements, continuous improvement. And one example I'd like to share, Mr. Chair, is with the purchasing department, where they analyzed what it cost to process a purchase order. And long story short, it was $26 per order. And the city processes about 56,000 purchase orders that are $5,000 and less. So the math on that is about $1.4 million. The best practice is $3. I'm not sure the city will get the $3, but even if it were half of that amount, there's a savings of about $700,000. So I've been very fortunate to share my experiences with staff, and I want to continue doing that. Thank you.
Thank you, John. For our next question, we return to Alan.
Thanks, Dave. our city's economic development portfolio is more than just our traditional commercial and industrial sectors. How do you see the arts, culture, heritage, sport, and tourism contributing to our economic drivers, and how would you help promote them and work with our neighbors in the county and Six Nations to take the efforts we're currently making them to the next stage?
Erica James.
I see the arts, culture, and heritage tourism as a great opportunity, but we need to work with Six Nations, New Credit, and Brant County to regionally promote our events and festivals and so on. I know back in the day, the international festivals used to be a week-long event. We used to have a parade. That's now gone down to a 4-day event. I think that if we are able to expand these things and then draw visitors in from other cities. When visitors come to town, they spend money in hotels, restaurants, food, and it's a win-win for everybody. Another thing we need for the arts community is a dedicated space. The Sanderson Center is a 1,125 beautiful facility, but the simple fact of the matter is most groups cannot afford to rent the Sanderson Center. So we need something in the range of 250 to 500 seats, where they're able to practice, put on concert shows, which then will bring in more people to our community. Because the arts and culture and so on, when we're able to express ourselves and through art and culture, we're able to be authentic. And when we're authentic, we're able to learn from each other and celebrate and embrace our differences and diversities. Thank you.
Thank you, Erica. John Sless.
Thank you, David, and thanks for the question. I think we are heading down the path of helping the arts and culture in our community. Harmony Square has become a focal point really downtown, and that serves a number of purposes. It puts people in the city where we'd like to have them. We want them downtown. We want them circulating. We want to build up a clientele that will allow businesses to start opening again in the downtown. And I think we're doing that. As has been said, a mid-sized theater. I sit on that committee as well. We're working with it. Again, it's not going to be one individual or one thing that will make this happen. I think it's got to be a group effort, and I think that's when we get involved with our partners in the county and in the Six Nations to come up with something that is affordable, that's viable, that is something that the users can be proud of. We have a lot of community groups, and they have their plays and things that they put on. They have no place to store costumes. They have no place to their props. They have all this equipment, and it's in Harry's garage and Bill's garage and Joe's garage. And it sounds to me that we could probably finance one of these through the bank account of the Gunners Club. It sounds like they're very fat in money, and perhaps we could talk to Peter, and we could get a loan and get a really nice facility going, and might not cost the city a dime. So, Peter, we'll talk later. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Warren Bayshard.
I'm a season ticket holder with the BSO, the Brantford Music Club, Grand River Chorus. I attend regularly the Downtown Jazz and also the Brantford Film Group. I was a volunteer there for a number of years. We have a very, very active cultural scene. We have a professional symphony here, which I believe is the only one in Ontario for a community of our size. It's outstanding. Someone mentioned earlier that the cultural scene and the athletic scene, and if you included that, sports, is a driver for economic development. People want to bring their families here to enjoy the kinds of things that cultural activities provide. I think any investment that the city makes in those endeavors will come back to us twofold. I believe there is a plan that could be actualized with Grace Anglican Church, although the minister who started it is no longer there. I believe the plan is still viable to make it into a small 225-seat performing center, and I think the city should pursue that. I think it's an outstanding idea.
Thank you, Warren. Peter Shear.
Yeah, I think the arts and culture and then the heritage part of it is a necessity for the city. As far as an economic driver, I guess it would have to be like we have the Sanderson Center. The Sanderson Center, I think, costs about $700,000 a year. I think we should have it. I'm not saying that we shouldn't have it, but I think the cost and revenue ratio needs to be a little closer together. And I think those types of venues will bring in other dollars and start to bring in outside people into the community. I don't think that it's going to do it inside. You're going to have to bring people from outside, so you're going to have advertising and something to attract them, a big enough venue to attract them, to make it so that the city's not losing their shirt every time that they put an event on. And at the end of the year, the balance sheet has to work.
Thank you, Peter. John Utley.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think the city's coming of age. You know, we used to be known as a blue-collar city, and now we're becoming more of a refined education center. And as a result of that, we're seeing more and more venues. Certainly downtown Harmony Square is a focal point for many of the cultural things that go on in the city. Tourism Brantford already works with the county and Six Nations, and that group also works with a larger regional presence as well in Southwest Ontario. Sports tourism is becoming big. Proof of that is the number of hotels that are being built at both ends of the city, with more coming in the future. Students are coming from overseas, from across Ontario, from the Caribbean, Brazil, to attend Laurier. Some of those will be bringing their parents, which adds to the number of people that will enjoy our city. So the more we can do to enhance their visit and help them enjoy that experience and come back again, not just come once, but come back again, I think that will be good. So, thank you.
Thank you, John. Sandra Anderson.
Arts, culture, and heritage give a city its sense of self, and Brantford needs to realize this. It needs to realize that arts and culture is an economic driver, and that it creates a sense of community. It involves working together. And in terms of working with the county and Six Nations, the theater communities are already doing that. I'm very involved in theater communities. I have been for the last 6 years. Just about every theater group in town I've worked with. I've been on community choirs like the Grand River Chorus. And the county does need to realize, or the city of Brantford does need to realize that it's more than just Harmony Square. It's our roots. It's the way we express ourselves. And it will affect every aspect of the community, bringing people into the city and showing everyone, putting us on the map, basically. So we need to look at arts, culture, and heritage. Thank you.
Thank you, Sandra. For our next question, we return to Peter.
If successful, you will represent Ward 2. While some of the issues are common to all wards and the community at large, there are specific issues and challenges for each specific ward. What are the top 2 priorities for your ward, and how will you advocate for these issues?
Thank you, Peter. We'll start with John Sless.
We've already actually discussed my 2 priorities for this year, but I'll carry on a little further because I like blowing that horn. Fixing Brant Ave and making it a livable place that we can get from here to there and in a reasonable amount of time. And the waterfront. The waterfront to me is extremely important. If you're talking, to me, the waterfront goes hand in hand with the trail system, and we've got a trail system that's unlike no other, in my opinion. We do spend a lot of money on it. We have great partners with the Brant Waterways Foundation. We have people in this community that deeply care about the natural heritage of our city, and working with these partners that are quite prepared to go out and fundraise massive amounts of money. We have developed and we maintain an excellent system of trails, and I think that's extremely important, and I think we have to keep fostering that relationship and keep investing in that. As far as Brant Ave, we've talked about it earlier. I think we have to get cars off Brant Ave. We can't take business off Brant Ave, so I think we have to make travel on Brant Ave easier by taking cars off Brant Ave. And I think the way you do that is you give people choices. You give them an alternative on how to get from where they are to where they want to be. And again, I'll go back to Oak Park Road. It's an expensive fix. It's not a quick fix, but I think it's the best fix. And I think as we work...
Thank you, John.
You're quite welcome.
Warren Bishart.
The two biggest issues that I'm hearing at the doors in Ward 2 are taxes, maintaining a reasonable level of tax while moving forward with infrastructure projects, but Brant Ave is a big concern. How we can move traffic there. As I said, I no longer think in terms of the BSAR. I think in terms of what I call the Brantford Connector Road System, so that people can move throughout the city more fluidly. I think that the use of roundabouts, we're seeing it more and more in Ontario. It's working very, very well. I would like to see us, with our traffic people, consider that more seriously. But there is no doubt that that is one of the two big issues in Ward 2, along with maintaining a reasonable level of tax.
Thank you. Peter Shear.
Yeah, when I was knocking on the doors, if you don't want to, what jumped out at me was the flooding part on Grand River Ave. I had a lot of folks talking about that, and I really don't think that flooding should have actually happened, but I don't know that for a fact. But I think that we just need to look at the plan better around the river and figure out we can't keep reacting every time a crisis management doesn't work. So I think we need to put a plan together to make sure that this type of an accident, and that's what I'm going to call it doesn't happen again. The second one, obviously, is the taxes. A lot of aging folks and retired people are very concerned with the taxes. I'm sure everybody is. I think we need to get back to basics. I think we need to start doing some checks and balances and stop spending money like drunken sailors. It has to make sense. Like, everybody likes nice things, but really, can we afford it? That's really the way we have to start looking at things. $55 million rec centers in West Brant. Do we need that? Probably down the road. Today, I don't think so. $55 million is a lot of money that we could have used somewhere else, maybe even to reduce the taxes a couple of points or something. But
Thank you, Peter. John Utley.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I've heard a lot of things at the door, but some things that jump out are traffic congestion on not just Brant Ave, but Grand River Ave, Ava Road, Hardy Road, people shortcutting across a number of different streets to bypass Brant Ave, as my friend will attest. So to do that, we need that extension across the Grand River at Oak Park into West Brant and relieve that. I think that will take a lot of pressure off the condition of roads along that corridor. The other thing, which is a priority to many people, is the waterfront, the development of the waterfront and keeping it in public hands. Bringing the level of the property up to the same level as the dike, so that people can enjoy the river. Right now, if you go, there's no park in the city, I think, that you can sit and overlook the river and enjoy it. You kind of have to have a periscope if you want to do that. So I see my vision is to acquire lands right across Grand River Ave area with having a different park to offer different services or different enjoyment to the citizens. A quiet park, one that has.
Thank you, John.
Is that me? Thanks.
Sandra Anderson.
Ward 2 is a wonderful place to live. I live in Ward 2. It is the largest geographical ward. It's got a hospital. It has wonderful high schools. It has Glenhurst Gardens. And it sounds from the table here that the top two priorities are the waterfront, the riverfront, and the roads. But for me, my priority is community, and I got involved with the community gardens this year, and it's just a fantastic program, and I really think that we should be developing that more because community gardens, vegetable gardens, and offering that to people for free vegetables, and being involved in planting those and taking care of those, and it just creates a sense of community. And there's been potlucks bringing everyone together. There's been yoga classes, things like this. It just creates a larger sense of, I use that word a lot, of community. That's my priority anyway. Thanks.
Thank you, Sandra. Erica James.
Well, this is one of the problems with going last on some questions. Most of my things have been mentioned already, but taxes, traffic, protecting the waterfront. But I'll talk about a couple. Taxes over the last 4 years have been raised about 13%, and this we gotta stop. You know, people are kind of tired of being taxed every year. We need to find efficiencies as well. We need to focus on needs versus wants again. We gotta look at what we actually need to do for our city rather than what we want to do. And again, we need to promote our city much better than we ever have had, you know, to bring in new industry and new businesses. The other area I like to make a priority is community engagement. I ask people, I'm so shocked at how so few people have any idea what ward they live in or any idea who their councillors are. It just amazes me. I believe that all points of view and perspectives should be heard. I will hold quarterly town hall meetings. I will also hold regular coffee chat, pub night chats with myself, just to get a pulse of the Ward 2 residents and what they are looking for. Of course, those will all happen in Ward 2 local shops. I will also attend all neighborhood association meetings, the complete meetings. I'll also listen to develop community resolutions from Ward 2 residents to bring back to council. So I'll bring politics back to the people, back to the residents of Ward 2. Thank you.
Thank you. For our next question, we will return to Alan.
Thanks, Dave. Should you be successful, you're not only going to represent Ward 2, but also be a vote for the larger municipality. Quite often, you'll be asked to balance the needs of your constituents within your ward versus the best interest of the city. One perfect example is a larger industrial or commercial business wanting to move and locate into the ward, which may be opposed by the majority of residents, but clearly be a good economic development decision for the city. How do you balance those needs of your Ward 2 constituents versus that of the greater municipality of Brantford?
We'll begin with Warren Bichard.
One of the things that I was shocked to find out is that there is a plan afoot to fund a $55 million recreational facility in what I call the evil empire, when they already have the majority of the recreational facilities in this community, but they won't come across the Veterans Parkway to use them. That's a concern to me. I hear this at every door. Ward 2 does not feel that they should be responsible for funding a project of that size. The other thing that I would like to mention is that a few years ago, John Sless chaired a meeting at the Civic Center community room about the Oak Park extension across the river. And if it hadn't been for John's skill in managing the meeting, there would have been fistfights. And the biggest bit of protest that we're going to get about that project is going to come out of Ward 1. They don't want it. And that was very clear. I think John would agree with me that I thought there were going to be fistfights at that meeting, and that is not going to be an easy project to get through. I agree that we need it. Peter Swanson, the acclaimed artist, thinks it should come up St. Paul's Ave. Well, he's probably right in terms of expediency of travel, but it's not going to happen.
Thank you, Warren. We'll go right to Peter Shear.
That's a tricky question. I don't think we're going to be able to please all of the people all the time, whether it's in the ward or as a city as a whole. I think communication with the people in your ward, I think I think the problem that we're having right now, and in my own opinion, is that we're not communicating with the people and explaining to them why we're making decisions. They say, oh, we can go to the website and you can, but what about the people that don't have computers? What about the seniors that don't have computers? They just interpret what the Brantford Expositor says. I think what I want to do is I want to have more ward meetings. So if we're going to make a decision and they have questions, I want to be able to address it personally, not tell them to go on the website. I'm not going to make the decisions. They're not going to be happy with some of the decisions that I make, because I'm going to make certain decisions that are going to be the best for the city overall. And I'm going to explain why I did that or why I made that decision. But I think it's all communication. We have to be able to tell them, this is why I made this decision, and give them the reasons why I did, and try to explain it. I think that's the key.
Thank you, Peter. John Utley.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. How land is zoned in the city is absolutely critical for development of any kind, whether it be business, commercial, retail, or residential. And the last thing that businesses want, from my contacts, is they don't want to run into conflicts and plates with neighbors that are on their doorstep. Over the years, when many people didn't have cars, it made sense to have businesses right next to factories right next to residential areas. Now businesses want highway access and highway visibility. So most of the development for businesses is migrated towards that 403 corridor. I think it might be short term to say, well, this company's coming in, they want to plunk their factory right here, and in doing so, they upset many hundreds of people. And I don't think we want to get into that sort of planning, in ensuring that those businesses are located in the right location for them to be successful and be good neighbors as well is kind of critical.
Thank you, John. Sandra Anderson.
I suppose if a objectionable business is going into Ward 2, it would have to be something like a large chain that's going to put smaller businesses out of business, or a large factory, as John says, that may cause pollution issues. As a councillor, we would have to look. I have a lot of discussion with the constituents, have a lot of public meetings, and just weigh the pros and cons, make a pros and cons list. And it is very difficult to balance this kind of thing. But communication is important, and you need to look at what is best for the city, best for the whole, that can also benefit Ward 2. Thank you.
Thank you. Erica James.
It's all about dialogue, education. I would first listen to the residents' concerns. I would educate them on the business that's coming as to what the benefits to our ward, to our city would be. And then I would facilitate dialogue between the residents and the actual business. And a good example of that is the Costco. When the Costco first bought the land over by Wayne St. Morton, there's a lot of businesses and different places near the Costco that were not happy about it. You know, they had concerns and issues with it going in the position. So the two parties got together, they worked through their differences, and they were able to come to agreements that are mutually satisfactory and they're pleased with. But if no satisfactory arrangements could be agreed upon, I would then work with the business to see if we could find an alternate location to locate their business. And then finally, if not, I would oppose it and vote no, as it's the residents of Ward 2 that I'm elected to serve and to answer to. So I would vote no if they firmly objected to it after we went through all this process of dialogue and so on. I would vote no. Thank you.
Thank you, Erica. John Sluss.
Thank you, David, and thanks for the question. We have an official plan that's a guiding principle, and if we adhere to that, there are no surprises. People know where factories are going to go. People know where commercial development is going to go, and they know where their house is. They know this up front. It's not like they suddenly can't believe they live beside an industrial park when it's been zoned that way for 20 years. So I think it's incumbent on the populace to educate themselves when they're buying a home, to have a look. It's all public knowledge. It's not like anything is being hidden. Consultation, I think, is key. The unknown is always scary. And if they don't know what it is and nobody explains it to them in terms that they understand, you tend to start using City Hall jargon when you're in City Hall all the time, and that doesn't necessarily play well on the street. They don't really know what you're talking about, and you've got to take it to a level that I could understand, or that I could talk to my wife, who has no idea what goes on down here, what you're doing. So I think, as far as ward meetings, I think Ward 2 probably last year or last term set the record for ward meetings in the city. If you're going to be narrow-minded and just look at your own ward, I would call that protectionism, and you can see how well that works down south. It doesn't work all that good, and I don't think it works here, and I don't think it should work here, and I wouldn't support it.
Thank you, John. For our last question, we'll turn to Peter Choma. And for the candidates, I'd like you to, if you could attempt to keep your answer to a minute, that would be great. Thank you.
Workforce is a critical issue for the business community nationally, provincially, and obviously here in Brantford. Our chamber members in the manufacturing and skilled trade sectors placed skilled trades and that workforce as second on their list of concerns, right behind business taxes. What is the role of the municipality in the development of training and post-secondary opportunities? And more specifically, do you support the municipalities contributing financially to further these opportunities?
We'll begin with Peter Scheer. Just a reminder to please keep your answers to a minute or less.
Absolutely. I mean, you always have to invest in training for the workforce. Just look at the workforce right now. We're so short of skilled laborers everywhere. I was out in Victoria. They're short 30,000 skilled laborers out there. They're going to be coming to Ontario to get them, and then we're going to be short. I see it every day. I work in construction, and there's just not enough people out there that are willing to do those skilled jobs. So, as a municipality, we need to attract. It'll attract new businesses because they'll be able to look at the municipality and say, well, these guys will be there to help us and back us up and train the people that need to be trained, and that'll mean more of a bigger growth for us. More houses will be built, more people will be spending in the municipality, and it'll be just overall growth for the city.
Thank you, Peter. Very good. John Utley.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I've been talking about this for 40 years, and I'm up to here. There's been a skill shortage for decades, and there is no light at the end of the tunnel. But having said that, there are some good things going on through the Skills Trade Alliance, which I'm co-chair, and involved in that is Six Nations Polytech, who are renovating and rejuvenating the former Mohawk College. Conestoga College are offering some courses, as is the Workforce Planning Board. What's missing is a provincial program that funds apprenticeship training programs. And until the province gets directly involved with funds, we're going to be struggling. Business is going to be struggling for years to come. And I hate to see that.
Thank you, John. Sandra Anderson.
I have 2 university degrees, and I'm pretty confident that if I were a plumber, I'd be making more money. I really support skilled trade, and I can understand why it's a concern for the Chamber. Programs like St. Leonard's are fantastic, and I really feel that the city should support the skilled trades, look into more education and better ways to promote the idea that people should be investigating the skilled trades as a career. Thank you.
Thank you, Sandra. Erica James.
I'd absolutely support the city contributing financially to wherever we can possibly can. But also at the same time believe that we should make sure that we're getting a return on that investment. We can't just spend money previously and just hope for the best. So many people start a class and then they quit. And we need for our business to flourish. Six Nations Polytechnic is a great example. They've just done a bunch of programs. They just had a female welding program that they're done. They're going to run it again. That's a great way to develop some skilled trades in the city, which will then fill some of these jobs that are open all over the place. So I would totally support any kind of training programs we could assist with. Thank you.
Thank you, Erica. John Sless.
Thank you, David. I think a big obstacle that we face is the stigma of being a tradesperson. Kids think that somehow they have to go to university, and if they have a degree, they've done everything they should do in life. And in fact, you can go to university and get a degree, or you can go to college and get a job. And I think that's probably the difference in the two. As chair of the Social Services Committee, we built a new building over on the John Noble Home property, a tower for seniors to live in. That was built by a local builder, Peter Bacano. And what was done there, and it was done in conjunction with the city, he used apprentices all the way through, and they were gaining hours, they were gaining experience, and they were gaining exposure as to what goes on in a trade and how that could work for them in their life. Those kinds of things as a city we can do.
Thank you, John. Warren Bishop.
I'm opposed to using city tax money to do the province's job, but I do believe that we should vigorously harass the province to live up to their responsibilities. We definitely need investment in this community in the trades, but I do not feel that it's a municipal responsibility. There's a local group called Citizens Opposed to Municipal Funding of Post-Secondary that have just issued a very academic treatise about it, and I think that they're on the right track, but I agree with John Utley that we really have to engage the province to solve this problem, because it's not just a Brantford problem. It's a provincial and it's a federal, national problem.
Thank you, Warren. That is all the time we have for questions this evening. The candidates will now make their closing remarks, and I remind you that you each will be allowed 1 minute to complete your remarks. The first candidate to speak will be Warren Bishard.
Well, I forgot to turn off so I'll just start. I've been interested in municipal affairs for close to 60 years. I do believe that I have a lot of knowledge of what has gone on in Brantford and what needs to go on in Brantford. I have tremendous energy for a person of my age. I have knowledge gained over many years of watching council, throwing my shoes at the television, and also agreeing with many of the decisions that have been made. And one thing that I can promise the citizens of Ward 2 is that I'll represent them to the best of my ability, and I will work as hard as I possibly can and engage them in the dialogue.
Thank you, Warren. Next will be John Sless.
Thank you, David. Firstly, I'd like to thank the Chamber for organizing and Rogers for telecasting this debate. Over the last little while, it's been my pleasure to speak with literally thousands of residents in Ward 2, whether it was at your door, on the street, or in the supermarket. You've had plenty to say, and I've been listening. During my tenure on council, I've asked questions that I thought you would ask if you were sitting at this table. I did my best in responding to your inquiries and requests, and I've done it in a timely and a responsive manner. I'm equipped, I'm ready, and I'm excited to continue as your counselor. On October 22nd, be sure to cast your vote. Most importantly, be sure to cast your vote. And please make it count by voting for me, John Sless, as your ward councillor in Ward 2. And I'd like to leave you with one final thought. Experience never goes out of style. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Erica James.
Hi, I'd first like to thank the Chamber and everyone who put on this great event. But most of all, I'd like to thank the viewers for tuning in and becoming engaged in the process. I hope you were able to learn what I'm about, what I stand for, and as well as I'm a passionate person. I love to advocate and to help and serve others. So on October 22nd, I'd ask you to cast your first choice for Erica James. And if for some reason I'm not your first choice, and I'm not quite sure why that may be, I'd be honored and grateful to receive your second vote. So thank you, and I look forward to serving the residents of Ward 2. Thank you.
Thank you, Erica. Sandra Anderson.
If we are listed alphabetically, I am your first choice. I just wanted to point that out. Thank you so much for the opportunity to be involved today. Alex Felsky, we missed you. Please get better soon. My platform is community. My experience, like I said, I do have 2 university degrees in English, sociology, and journalism. My experience is in writing in the news media, in publicity. I have managed halls. I have been involved in the arts, culture, and heritage, and that is incredibly important to our city. And I am for community. So vote Sandy for the city on October 22. Thank you.
Thank you, Sandra. John Utley.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. First, I want to thank all the viewers who took the time to watch this evening's debate. Thank you to the Chamber for organizing this evening's Ward 2 candidate debate, and to Rogers Cable TV for airing. I look forward to being your representative on council for another term as someone who wants to continue as your voice of reason. There are many positive developments happening in Ward 2, where abandoned factories are being transformed into elegant and attractive residential units. With my proven track record, I will continue to respond quickly to your concerns and try my best to find a positive solution wherever possible. I will work hard to maintain your quality of life at a cost that we can afford. I humbly request your support on October 22nd. Make your vote count for the councillor you deserve in Ward 2, John Utley. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Peter Scheer.
I read a letter to the editor the other day, but I put an article in there, and they said something that brings sanity back into politics. I thought that was quite good. I kind of agreed with it. We really need to get back to the basics, and need to get back to simple checks and balances, and again, treating each other with respect, not throwing pencils at people and doing things like that. I'm concerned with how cynical people are, and how angry everybody seems to be in the press and Facebook and social media. Everybody's just seems to be so angry. We need to stop spending money like drunken sailors. I think I said that earlier. We have to stop and think about why we're doing it, how it will impact us financially, not only in the short term, but in the long term.
Thank you, Peter. And thank you to all of the candidates, including Alex Felsky, for sharing your thoughts with us this evening and for your commitment to our community. I'm confident that tonight's discussion will greatly assist the residents of Brantford, in particular in Ward 2, in making their very important decision on Monday, October 22nd. Thank you to Rogers for partnering with our Chamber of Commerce Brantford-Brant to provide this opportunity for residents and for the business community to ask some questions that are very important to our local area. The Ward 3 candidates debate will be presented on Thursday, September the 20th, right here in City Council chambers and on Rogers TV. Thank you again for joining us this evening. Please exercise your right to vote on October 22nd. Good night.
Call the Rogers TV viewer response line, email us, or connect with us on social media.
TV Bingo is a really simple show. Obviously, 5 different games of bingo.
And we are off.
And of course, it's a major fundraiser for us, the Lions Club, and the monies for that bingo stay within the community the cards are purchased. So we do wonderful things with the profits from that particular bingo.
528.
We have at least 5 winners every week, and we give away $3,000 every week.
Hey, did you know?
More than 4,500 Canadians are waiting for an organ transplant right now.
Right now. 4,500.